She found her photo as a missing girl and discovered her whole life was a lie. She found a picture of herself as a lost little girl and found out her whole life had been a lie when a 7-year-old saw the picture in a grocery store. She didn't know how important what she was looking at was, but this shopping trip was going to change her life, and the lives of her family and friends were good. Every day in the United States, more than 2,000 kids go missing. The National Center for Missing and Exploited Children says that over 800,000 kids go missing every year. Many of them are taken by people they don't know, but most of them are taken by family members. There are a lot of organizations out there that want to bring as many of them home as possible. After a very scary case in the 1970s, the milk carton ad was one of the first ones of its kind. This project began when Eaton Patz, 6 years old, went missing in Manhattan on May 25, 1979, while walking to the bus stop. He never got to the house, even though it was only 2 blocks away. When Julie, his mother, found out he wasn't at school, she called 911. As the hours changed to days, Eaton's picture was shown on TV, stuck to telephone poles, and in 1985 it was put on the side of cartons of milk. In September 1984, when a paperboy named Johnny Gosch went missing, Anderson Erickson Dairy in Iowa was the first dairy to put a picture of a missing child on its side of its carton. But Eaton's case spread across the country as more and more dairy companies joined the effort. The police were fully supportive of this initiative as it provided them with the means to connect with the community and hundreds and thousands of Americans every morning during breakfast. There were 1,600 private dairies in the country, and by the beginning of 1985, 700 of them were participating in the search for missing children. Since Eaton went missing on his way to school on May 25th, Ronald Reagan declared that day National Missing Children's Day. His story doesn't have a happy finish, though. In 2017, the person who killed him was finally found guilty. But this story is about Bonnie Loman, a sweet 7-year-old girl whose family lived a strange life. She saw a milk box that had stopped her in her path and changed her life forever. Bonnie lived on an island that not many people knew about. She was a normal kid who liked to play and was naturally playful. She hadn't been to school, though, like most kids her age. Her childhood wasn't like most, and she didn't know that she was different from other people. She had moved around a lot, first living with her parents in Hawaii, then on a small island of Saipan, which is part of the northern marina of islands that is a U.S. Commonwealth in the Pacific Ocean. Fewer than 60,000 people live there, and the country is known for its golden sands and hilly scenery. But this area is the site of a small fight in 1944. People have never heard of it. After spending her early years on an island and living in simple shacks, the small family of 3 eventually moved to Colorado and lived a quiet, normal life. Bonnie spent her days playing with her toys. She would play by herself, with her parents, or sometimes at the house of a friend in their small neighborhood. Not much happened or was exciting during her childhood. It was hard for her to go outside, but she didn't know any better. Bonnie was happy, and she didn't assume that not going to school would make her unhappy. The girl had no idea how to read or write or do basic math. She also didn't know what other kids her age were doing. Wyoming was the only place Bonnie could go that always made her happy. While she had grown up on the 2 islands, she had grown up used to the beaches, but her parents loved her very much, and that she was very happy in her new house. Even though she wasn't allowed to go outside very often, she looked forward to the few times she could go grocery shopping with one of her parents. Bonnie loved going out on those trips and would stare at everything in the food store. She liked all the bright boxes, despite the fact she couldn't read what was written on them. After a while, Bonnie's dad called out that it was going to be time to go to the store again, and she should come with him. She quickly put on her shoes, and her face lit up. Bonnie paid attention to the sounds and sights around her as they walked to the store. She loved those trips, especially since they didn't happen very often. She loved being out with her dad. Bonnie knew she had to behave well, or else she wouldn't be able to go on future trips. Bonnie looked at all the different colors and sizes of the food and drink containers as she walked down the store's aisles. She went to the cool, refrigerated area and looked at all the rows of yogurt and creams and milk boxes. One milk carton caught her attention right away, and she couldn't stop looking at it. There was a picture of a young girl on the side that made it look so familiar. Bonnie knew who that was in the picture, but she was afraid of what her dad would think. The black and white picture showed a girl who was a lot younger than Bonnie. At first, she had no idea that the girl on the box was a 3-year-old picture of herself. But she quickly realized that the girl on that box was her, and the sight of herself hypnotized her. As she waited for her dad to walk down the dairy aisle, she pointed with great joy at the carton. She hoped that he would be as excited about this amazing find as she was. She needed to get a better look. Would her dad let her keep this interesting find? Her dad said nothing and just looked at the box. She loved how big and clear the picture of herself was on the package. She was thrilled because this was one of the best things that had ever happened to her in her short life. She begged her dad to get it for her. Before making up his mind, he looked at her for a long time. He finally smiled after what seemed like a lifetime and told her he'd buy it for her. But there was one very strict condition. She was asked by her dad to do something important, but would she do it? When the two got home, they sat in the kitchen and drank from the special box. Bonnie felt popular and couldn't stop looking at the picture. She promised her dad that she could do one thing in exchange for him cutting out the picture. He said that she could keep the picture as long as she promised not to show it to anyone, not even her mother. Bonnie swore to her father right away that she would keep her word because she wanted the picture so badly. Bonnie knew how to follow the rules and keep things a secret. Bonnie's dad knew she would keep that secret, and Bonnie's dad knew she would keep her word if she said she would. He didn't think she was lying because she had shown herself with honesty many times before. She skipped asking him about any of the words on the box. She was too focused on the picture. When the box was empty, her dad took out the scissors and cautiously cut out the whole side of the box for her. The words missing was written on the picture she was given, but she didn't know that. Bonnie loved the picture, but she didn't know how important it was. She was too young to know about the campaign regarding milk cartons, and she was thrilled to be given a picture to keep. As her father had asked, she kept it a secret from everyone, even her mom. The sweet little girl went back to her normal day of playing and making up stories to pass the time. When her mother came home, she was proud that she hadn't said anything to her. She knew her father would be pleased that she had followed his strict rule. The picture of Bonnie was always with her because she was so happy to have it. Everything would change that day, but there was one exciting difference at the start of the next day. There was a time when Bonnie could play at a neighbor's house, even though it didn't happen very often. She loved going there, and she could bring some of her toys and play with them at her house. Bonnie would put her favorite toys in a small box and went next door to have fun for the afternoon. But she didn't forget to bring her favorite picture with her either. As promised to her dad, she put it at the bottom of the box and made sure no one could find it. She didn't want her friend to see it. She had a great time at her house. Her favorite thing about this was the change of scenery. Looking at the same walls in her family home got boring for her sometimes. It was so much fun to be at her neighbor's house because the hours went by too fast. She said goodbye to everyone and she went back to her parents' home when it was time to leave. She loved her time there and was glad that she got to able to spend the afternoon there. What Bonnie didn't know was that she had forgotten to bring the box of toys with her, and the neighbor found the box of toys and was about to give it back to Bonnie when she saw the black and white picture inside. She looked at it for a long time, figuring out what it was that she was looking at. Bonnie held a stuffed bear and a picture with herself, and she was much, much younger, and the words missing screamed at the bottom of the picture. Bonnie's name, date of birth, height, and weight were written on the summary below. It also had been the date she was last seen. The neighbor was shocked by what she read. One last line at the bottom of the picture said, "Relationships, Mother and Reno, Nevada." After the woman read that, there was only one thing she could do. She picked up the phone and began to dial. She called 911 right away and was put through to an officer. As she rushed to give them the information as soon as possible, the words just came out of her mouth. She was scared to death that Bonnie's parents would find the box and the picture in her house. Her life was in danger, and time was running out. The cops knew what they had to do as the friendly questioning got tenser. The cops were on their way to her door in minutes, and it took the picture in person. They went next door to ask the husband and wife about their daughter as soon as it was checked out. The cops were careful not to scare them, because if they did, they might lose control and put Bonnie's life in danger. The officer sat down with Bonnie's parents and asked them some basic questions like when they moved to Colorado and what they did for a living. But when the question about Bonnie came up, the parents became tense and irritable, and the officers could see that she was kidnapped. The cops knew they had to do something. Right away, the couple were arrested, and Bonnie was taken to the police station. One of the police officers called the number on the box and finally spoke to a man who said he was Bonnie's father. When he had heard that someone in Colorado was calling about a lost child, he was shocked. It was hard for him to speak. The man began to cry and asked Bonnie if she was okay. She was told to be safe and sound. It became clear very quickly that Bonnie had been lied to for most of her life as that chat went on. The man she called Dad was not her real father. It turned out that Bonnie was in the middle of a nasty custody battle when she was 3 years old, and her mother had lost. This was a sad story of a broken relationship and a mother's desperate choice. Bonnie's mother took her from their home in Reno and vanished because she didn't want to follow the court's order. Bonnie's dad was so upset that he put pictures of his daughter everywhere he could. The cops were called, but since it was a family dispute, they chose not to get involved. He was crushed by their decision, so he asked the campaign to put Bonnie's picture and information on the side of milk cartons. Even though he knew it was unlikely, he would do anything to get her back. Usually, only pictures of stolen kids were on cartons, but he begged the people in charge of the campaign to let his little girl's picture be on there too. It was clear that whatever he said had worked. The only reason he won was sheer grit and drive. There is still no word on why Bonnie's fake dad bought her the carton. Many people thought Bonnie was being cocky and sure of herself because she thought she could hide it and never learn to read. 4 years after being taken, Bonnie was reunited with her father right away, and it was a miracle that her picture was on the boxes and that they were sent to Colorado grocery stores, and that Bonnie leaving it for someone else to find was just a lucky mistake. Years later, Bonnie was asked about her time that she spent running away with her mother and her husband without realizing it. People ask her about it all the time in Hawaii and Saipan, as well as the many rules she had to follow to stay hidden. That girl had no idea that her loving father, who she didn't remember much, was looking for her. "I wasn't kidnapped by strangers, I was kidnapped by people that love me," she stated. The charges were brought against her mother and her husband, but Bonnie didn't care. When she saw her father again, after being away for so long and not remembering much about him, her life changed. She learned who she was and learned who he was. The girl's dad told the press that he never stopped looking for her and had never given up hope that one day he would find her again. From many pictures that had been sent all over the states, he was sure that someone would recognize her. Overall, the effort with the milk cartons didn't work, but out of 200 kids that were shown in almost 5 billion cartons, one pizza box, and the back of envelopes, only 2 were brought home. Lucky for us, Bonnie was one of those 2. The plan was finally phased out, and in 1996, Amber Alerts took its place. With this new program, texts were sent out, signs showed messages, and alerts were shown on the fronts of buses. This method has been shown to be one of the best ways to get information out quickly about a lost child. But Bonnie's dad will always be thankful for the milk box message. What do you think about this story? What do you think about methods used to find missing children? Like always, we want to hear back from you in the comment section below.